UFC 305 just wrapped up, and I'm going to go through and matchmake every single fighter's next fight on the main card. Every winner and every loser is going to have their next opponent in this video. And we're going to start with the very first fight on the main card. Carlos Prates brutally KOs Li Jingliang for the first time. Li Jingliang has never been KO'd ever in his career, and Carlos Prates puts him out bad in round 2. I mean, this was one of the best performances of all time, dude. Carlos Prates didn't take a single clean shot. He knocked the leech down multiple times and then eventually put him out cold, face first on the canvas. Absolutely brutal KO from Carlos Prates. And I think his next matchup should be a guy that I think he called out in the post-fight interview. I couldn't really understand him, and I looked it up on Twitter to see if anyone understood, and no one seemed to know exactly what he said, but I believe he called out Chaos Williams. And I like that matchup a lot. That's two dangerous strikers. Chaos Williams has a lot of power in his hands. I think this would be an awesome fight. Move Prates a little bit higher up the rankings. I think if he beats Chaos Williams, then you give him a ranked opponent next. But this is dangerous, man. Chaos Williams has a lot of power in his hands. But I would love to see that fight 100%. And as for Li Jingliang, he's coming off 2 losses. He lost a decision to Daniel Rodriguez about a year ago. And then, of course, he just got KO'd tonight. I've matched him up with a guy who's also coming off 2 losses, and that is Phil Rowe. I think this makes a ton of sense for both guys. Someone's 2-fight losing streak has got to get snapped. So I say match Li Jingliang up with Phil Rowe. Next fight on the main card was Tuivasa versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Yeah, Jairzinho Rozenstruik just kind of outpointed Tuivasa and won a decision very convincingly, very clear. And for the winner, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, you move him up the rankings a little bit, and I have him taking on a guy coming off a very recent loss in Marcin Tybura. Tybura is a little bit ahead of Rozenstruik right now in the rankings. In all likelihood, Rozenstruik will take Tuivasa's number 10 ranking come Tuesday morning. So he'll be around 10. Currently, Tybura is like 8 or 9. Coming off a loss, I say you book that fight. Makes sense. And for the loser, Tuivasa, dude, it's a little rough for Tuivasa. That's 5 losses in a row. He's Tony Ferguson maxing. It's hard to find a fight for Tuivasa. Like, if you look at the rankings, a lot of the people just below him, like in the 15 to 13 range, are all booked. Like, Romanov's booked, Marcos Rogerio de Lima's booked, and Nascimento just lost to Derek Lewis, so he doesn't really deserve a shot back into the rankings. So I've matched him up with a guy who was outside the rankings, but he is coming off a win in his last fight. I say we do a blob off. Let's do Shamil Gaziev versus Tuivasa. I mean, at least Shamil Gaziev's coming off a win. He's quickly turning into a fan favorite. He's turning into a meme. So put up the two fan favorites against each other. I'm sure Tuivasa would probably get wrestle fucked and lose by submission or ground and pound TKO, something like that. Oh my God. This is live reaction. I'm still watching this. The fight literally just ended. Dude, I'm not listening with audio. Someone scored the fight 30-27 Tuivasa? What is this, bro? This is the worst scorecard I've ever seen. Holy fuck. The fight literally just ended. I'm making this video. Dude, what was that? Oh my God. That is the worst scorecard I've ever seen in my life. 30-27 Tuivasa is absolutely fucking insane. But yeah, let's do Tuivasa versus Gaziev. I mean, you got to move Ty down the rankings, man. He's lost 5 in a row. Give him an unranked opponent. Gaziev lost to Rozenstruik, but he bounced back against Dontel Mays. So I guess you can give him a shot back into the rankings. Feature fight on the card was Dan Hooker versus Mateusz Gamrot, and Dan Hooker gets it done by split decision. Pretty close fight. I thought Dan Hooker won every round. Like, I know people are going to hate that. I thought he won rounds 1, 2, and 3. Round 1 was close. They both did a lot of damage on each other, but I thought Dan Hooker stole it in the final minutes with the knockdown. They didn't score it a knockdown, I guess. It says no knockdowns, but I thought it was a pretty clear knockdown. And then he landed. He pretty much did a lot of work in the last minute of that round, including a knockdown and a lot of damaging shots. I thought he could have won round 1. I scored it for him in the moment. I'm sure if I go back and rewatch that, maybe I give it to Gamrot. But either way, round 1 was close. And I thought rounds 2 and 3, Hooker landed the more damaging shots, the more impactful shots. He was snapping Gamrot's head back with a lot of shots, and Gamrot would be in on a single leg or a double leg, and Hooker's landing big, powerful, damaging elbows to the side of his head. And the truth is, you cannot win a fight by stomping your opponent's foot or kneeing your opponent's thigh when you're getting elbowed in the side of the head over and over again. That's just, you're getting out damaged in that position. So I thought the right man won. I thought Dan Hooker should have won that fight, and he did. And for that, he's going to be in the top 5 now. Mateusz Gamrot was ranked 5th in the world. So now Hooker is going to be up in the top 5, back in the top 5 at lightweight. He was in the top 5 at lightweight once upon a time. Now he's back. And I think he should fight Charles Oliveira. I think this is a pretty good fight. Charles Oliveira is coming off that loss to Arman Tsarukyan, the very close fight. So coming off a loss, I think he should take on the guy that just got into the top 5, Dan Hooker. Fight we've never seen before. I think that'd be a very interesting fight. Charles Oliveira, he is a little bit chinny. You know, we know him to be quite chinny. So maybe Dan Hooker could catch him and KO him. Who knows? Or maybe Oliveira can find the KO himself or get a submission. Who knows? I think that'd be a really fun fight to watch. So for Dan Hooker, I have Charles Oliveira. And now for the loser, Mateusz Gamrot. This is a loss that it's been a long time coming, in my opinion, man. Like, I feel like this guy should have lost to Jalen Turner. Rafael Fiziev blows his knee out in their fight, very anticlimactic. And then RDA, he drops him early, and RDA's like washed and old. So, you know, it's always been a little sketchy with Mateusz Gamrot and his wins. But for his next fight, I think they should run it back. Run back Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot. Rafael Fiziev has had time to recover from that ACL injury, I believe it was. Some sort of knee injury. I want to say ACL. But yeah, run back that fight. It ended prematurely due to an injury. So run it back. I say run it back. Mateusz Gamrot versus Rafael Fiziev. Winner can fight back up in the rankings. Co-main event, Kai Kara-France versus Steve Erceg. Man, this ruined my fucking night. I'm not gonna lie, dude. Kai Kara-France is fucking little midget. I can't stand Kai Kara-France. He's cringe as fuck. I can't believe my GOAT fell for the only combination Kai Kara-France has. He fell for the jab overhand, man. I can't fucking believe it. I was frozen in front of my fucking monitor for like 20 minutes after it happened. Yeah, cannot fucking believe it. Ruined my night. But for Kai Kara-France, there's really not a lot you can do with him, man. So I've matched him up with Brandon Moreno. Now, hear me out. The 3 people above Kai Kara-France are Brandon Royval as the #1 contender, Brandon Moreno at 2, and Amir Albazi at 3. Brandon Royval is already fighting Tatsuro Taira. That's already booked. And Amir Albazi already beat Kai Kara-France. Whether you think it was a robbery or not, there's no way they just run that fight back. That doesn't make any sense. And you could say title shot, but I'm like 90% sure that they're going to do Pantoja versus Kai Asakura, which means Brandon Moreno is the only other fighter that is a step up for Kai Kara-France. So I say you run that fight back, do it again. Brandon Moreno won the first time with a liver kick KO, and Brandon Moreno has looked a little washed in his last couple fights, not as good as he used to be. So run that fight back, Kai Kara-France versus Brandon Moreno, for a #1 contender fight, I guess. I don't really care. Fuck him. As for my GOAT, Steve Erceg, fluke win. He'll be back, dude. He's the champ. I've matched him up with Manel Cap. Like, again, you can't shoot him up the rankings. He's at 7 right now. Mateus Nicolau got chinned by Alex Perez. I don't really want to see that. Manel Cap had a pretty close fight with Muhammad Makayev, so I think this is a pretty fair fight. They're pretty close in the rankings. Run this fight. Whoever wins can get a shot back up into the top 5. And for the main event, we had Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. Dricus du Plessis making his first title defense, and he chokes out Israel Adesanya in round 4. Rear naked choke win for Dricus du Plessis. This one's a no-brainer. It's obviously going to be Sean Strickland, right? They already had a razor close fight. A lot of people thought Sean Strickland won. Very close fight. Closest fight Dricus du Plessis has had in the UFC so far. So, yeah, you got to run that one back. I think no matter who won, it was Sean Strickland next anyway. No matter how much I disagree with it, it's whatever. It's going to be Sean Strickland and DDP 100%. And as for Israel Adesanya, losing to DDP and lost to Sean Strickland, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, man. And it's insane that we're saying that about Israel Adesanya, who is looked at as one of the best middleweights of all time. Going on a bit of a skid here. There's a lot of things you can do with Adesanya. You can wait for the winner of Whittaker-Chimaev, maybe run back a trilogy with Whittaker, or that exciting fight with Chimaev. I think that'd be really fun. You could always do the winner of Nasruddin Imavov versus Brendan Allen, maybe. But for me, I think the fight to make is the winner of Jared Cannonier versus Caio Borralho, and I think that's going to be Caio Borralho. I think this is the fight to make, man. Especially if Borralho wins, maybe not so much if Cannonier wins. But yeah, I think Izzy versus Borralho would be an awesome fight. Borralho, the Fighting Nerds, they're on fire, dude. And I think this would be a great step up for him if he were to beat Jared Cannonier, which I think he will next weekend. So yeah, that's every single fight to make after UFC 305, Du Plessis versus Adesanya. Let me know what you guys think about these matchups that I made. What would you change about them? And I'll see you next time.